Hello. Welcome back. Before we get into the deck tech, two quick things. One, go visit kitchentablemtg.com. It's a nice place to shoot the shit with content creators, Magic players. Just a nice place. And if you go and make an account and post, you'll get into the afterlife of your choice, whatever religious belief that may be. Second, if you're watching the video, you're probably interested in Tron decks. Well, this is a janky Tron deck, and if you invest your money into it, you're really not losing out that much. You get your core pieces of Tron, whether a Pauper or Modern, being the Tron lands and expedition map, and that pretty much makes up the bulk of this deck's price, along with a few other cards that are actually staples in other formats. So if you do choose to do this, you're really only spending $5 to $10 on extra cards you may not use. And if you don't like doing that, then maybe you shouldn't be playing Magic, because it's an expensive game. Anyways, this is Mono Red Tron. Yeah, it's not a creative name. You don't need to shove it down my fucking throat. I can't get an A name every fucking time, okay? I have some down times. We're doing the deck backwards, because I fucking feel like it. Starting with the lands, we have 4 of each Tron land, the Tower, the Mine, and the Power Plant. Now these respectively just tap for 1 colorless mana, but if you have 1 of each on the battlefield, they tap for 7 mana collectively, so that's pretty nice. We're also running 4 Desert of the Fervent. It's a desert that enters tapped and can tap for red mana. We can also cycle it for 1 and a red. And Sunscorched Desert, when it enters it deals 1 damage to a player, and it taps for colorless, so there is a desert sub-theme. And 3 mountains for 22 lands. Now out of the 22 lands, you notice that we only have 7 red sources. Not a lot for a monocolored deck. Moving on to our artifacts, I know I have a fetish for artifacts, but this isn't an artifact deck. You have to take my fucking word on it, I swear. We're running 4 Power Stone Shards, which are basically Tron mana rocks. They tap for a colorless mana for each artifact we control named Power Stone Shard, so if you have 2 of them out, they each tap for 2. That's pretty good. 3 Pristine Talismans for 3, you get an artifact that taps for 1, colorless, and you gain 1 life. Now this is good because it might take us a little while to set up with our Tron lands, get our mana flowing, so we can just hold this up even if we don't need the mana. We can tap at the end of an opponent's turn, gain some life back for the beating that we may get. And 2 Mind Stones. For 2 you get a mana rock. Pretty cheap, but you can also pay 1 and tap it and sack it to draw a card. Up next we got 4 Expedition maps. Typical Tron, it's not a Tron deck if you're not doing turn 1 Expedition map. You use it to look for your other Tron lands or whatever you want. If you're not looking for a Tron land, you're probably doing it wrong. We also got 4 Prophetic Prisms. They draw us some cards, get us some red mana because we only have the 7 sources, and 2 Rakdos Signets. For mana ramp and mana fixing, taps for a red and a black. You could use any signet really that taps for red. Gruul, is it? Just not Boros. Fuck Boros. Now what are we going to do with all this mana? We have shit tons of mana. Well, we're going to use these 2 spells. Carevex Torch and Rolling Thunder. Carevex Torch is simply 1 red and X. Deal X damage to target creature or player. That's it. That's our plan. We're just going to hit someone across the fucking jaw with a torch. Pretty simple. The nice part about it though is that counter spells cost 2 more to counter it. So if they only have 1 mana up, 2 mana up, we're golden. We just fucking peg them with a torch. Bam. We're also running 2 Rolling Thunders for 2 red and X, bit more mana intensive. We can deal X damage divided as we choose among any number of target creatures or players. So that's nice because we can still just hit them, or we can wipe their board, or we can hit them and wipe their board. Seems pretty nice. But only 6 cards, that's still not too reliable. So what else we got? Well, we got 4 Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs. For 2, you get a 0/4 Defender that taps to deal 1 damage to target player, but we can only activate it if we control a desert or have a desert in our graveyard. See the desert sub-theme coming along? Kinda nice. 0/4 Defender isn't bad. It blocks quite a few small creatures, and then we can just ping them at the end of their turn. Next up we have Valakut Invoker. For a red and 2, we get a 2/3 that's pay 8. It's pretty expensive, but it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Now that seems like a lot, but more times than not we can actually play it and then still use its activated ability because of all the mana we have. Now, some of you might be saying, well, there's another invoker, Flame Wave Invoker. Same mana cost, you get a 2/2 for red and 7, you deal 5 damage to target player or planeswalker. So you get 2 extra damage, but well, I don't think it's worth it, and quickly here's why. 1, it's 1 red mana to activate the damage. Yeah, it's 2 more damage overall, but we don't run a lot of red, so if we have to play it then wait a turn to activate it, that just leaves tons of chances for it to be removed for 0 value. 2, the Flame Wave Invoker doesn't hit creatures, so if we really need to, we can play the Valakut Invoker, activate its ability, and destroy a creature that may be giving us trouble. That's pretty valuable on its own. And 3, the Valakut Invoker has 1 more point of toughness. Now I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but in Pauper, when you have stuff like Disfigure and Shock actually being played, that 1 point of toughness can save you, even though it still can die to a lightning bolt. At least we're removing some of the removal that can be used against us. Now let's move past these cards that no one gives a shit about. Finally, we got Artillerize. I swear to fuck this isn't an artifact deck. I promise you. It wasn't supposed to be, I'm sorry. For red and 3 and an additional cost of sacrificing an artifact or creature, we deal 5 damage to target creature or player. That can just be the killing blow. We sack one of our prisms, we sack one of our mana rocks, get the 5 damage in. We're running 4 lightning bolts, which could easily be subbed out for Galvanic Blast, considering how many artifacts we're running, but I figured a consistent 3 damage is better than a varying 4 damage. So I chose the bolts. Onto the sideboard, so we're running 3 Electrickery for go wide strategies like elves, 3 Smash the Smithereens to destroy artifacts like in Affinity or whatever, Molten Rain in case we come across other Tron decks, Pyroblast to counter blue spells and destroy blue permanents, Gix Probe in case we're worrying about them holding up counter spells, we can sub it in just so we can look at their hand before we potentially go off, and finally a Nil Spell Bomb to deal with graveyards, and that's where the black from the Rakdos can come in handy, so fuck you, Boros. And that's the deck. I hope you like it. I know it's a bit pricey for a Pauper deck, but you are still investing in good Tron pieces. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, and keep having fun. I'll see you guys next time.